The security guard's hand trembled as he knocked on the heavy wooden door. It was 3 in the morning. The palace hallways were silent except for the distant echo of his heartbeat. He had never done anything like this before, but tonight he had no choice. Inside her private sitting room, Catherine heard the knock. She wrapped her robe tighter and opened the door just a crack. The guard's face was pale. Sweat dotted his forehead despite the cold November air. "Your Royal Highness," he whispered, "I need to speak with you. Alone. It's urgent." Catherine studied his face. James had worked at the palace for 12 years. She had never seen him like this. His eyes darted down the corridor as if someone might be watching. She stepped aside and let him in. The room was dim. Only a single lamp glowed near the fireplace. James closed the door and locked it. His hands were shaking. "What's happened?" Catherine asked. Her voice was calm, but her pulse quickened. James pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket. "I found this tonight. In the security office. Someone left it on the main desk when no one was looking." He handed it to her. Catherine unfolded the paper. Her breath caught. It was a printed message. No signature. Just 5 words typed in bold letters. "They're planning something. Trust no one." Catherine looked up. "Who left this?" "I don't know," James said. "But there's more." He pulled out his phone and showed her a series of photographs. They had been taken from inside the palace. Photos of corridors, staff schedules, entry codes written on sticky notes. And then a photo of Catherine herself, taken through a window. She was sitting at her desk, unaware. "These were sent to an anonymous email," James explained. "Someone forwarded them to me by mistake. They thought I was part of it." Catherine's stomach tightened. "Part of what?" "I think someone inside the royal circle is leaking your private information," James said. "And I think they're doing it to hurt you. If you're drawn into the story already, stay with us. There's so much more to uncover. And if you want more emotional, real-life stories like this, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss what happens next." Catherine sat down slowly. Her mind raced. She thought of the people she trusted. Her assistant, her advisors, the security team, the staff who saw her every day. Someone among them was betraying her. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Why not go to the head of security?" James hesitated. "Because I don't know who to trust anymore. And because," he paused, "because one of the photos was taken from inside the head of security's office." The room felt colder. Catherine stared at the images on the phone. Whoever was behind this had access. They knew her routines. They knew where she would be and when. "What do they want?" she whispered. "I don't know," James said. "But I think you're in danger." Catherine stood and walked to the window. Outside, the palace grounds were dark. Somewhere out there, or perhaps even closer, someone was watching, waiting, planning. She turned back to James. "We need to find out who this is before they make their move." James nodded. "But we have to be careful. If they find out we know, they might act faster." Catherine's jaw tightened. She had faced public scrutiny before. She had endured rumors and criticism. But this was different. This was a threat from within. From someone who knew her. Someone she may have smiled at just hours ago. "Then we start tonight," she said. "And we tell no one." The next morning, Catherine moved through the palace as if nothing had changed. She smiled at the staff. She attended her meetings. She reviewed documents with her assistant Margaret, who had been by her side for 7 years. But inside, every glance felt like suspicion. Every conversation felt like a test. James had advised her to act normal, to not let anyone sense that she knew something was wrong. So she did, but it was exhausting. At breakfast, she sat with her senior advisor, Edward. He was a man in his 60s, sharp and formal. He had served the royal family for decades. Catherine had always respected him. But now, as he spoke about the upcoming charity event, she found herself wondering, could it be him? "You seem distracted, Your Highness," Edward said, setting down his teacup. Catherine forced a smile. "Just tired." "It's been a long week," Edward nodded. "Understandable. There's a lot on your plate. But remember, You have people you can rely on. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they felt like a warning. After breakfast, Catherine returned to her private office. She locked the door and called James. He answered immediately. "I've been looking into the email," he said quietly. "It was sent from a burner account, untraceable. But I did find something. The photos were taken over the past 2 weeks. Whoever did this has been planning for a while. Any idea who?" Catherine asked. "Not yet, but I'm watching the security logs. Anyone who accessed restricted areas during those times. It's a short list." Catherine's chest tightened. How short? 6 people, including Edward. And Margaret. Catherine closed her eyes. Margaret, her assistant. The woman who organized her life, who knew every detail of her schedule, every private moment. "I can't believe it's her," Catherine said. "We can't rule anyone out," James replied. "Not yet." That afternoon, Catherine had a meeting with Margaret to finalize the guest list for the charity gala. As Margaret sat across from her, typing on her laptop, Catherine studied her. Margaret was efficient, professional, but was there something else? A flicker of nervousness? A glance toward the door? "Margaret," Catherine said suddenly, "how long have we worked together?" Margaret looked up, surprised. 7 years, Your Highness." "Why do you ask?" "Just reflecting," Catherine said. "You've been very loyal," Margaret smiled. "I'm honored to serve." The word serve echoed in Catherine's mind. Was it genuine or rehearsed? After Margaret left, Catherine sat alone. Her hands were cold. She felt trapped. Every person she trusted was now a suspect, and somewhere hidden in the shadows of the palace. The betrayer was watching her struggle. That evening, James sent her a text. "Meet me in the East Garden, 10 o'clock. I found something." Catherine slipped out of her quarters just before 10. The palace was quiet. Most of the staff had gone home. She walked through the dimly lit corridors, her footsteps soft on the marble floors. The East Garden was secluded, surrounded by hedges. James was waiting near the fountain. His face was tense. "What did you find?" Catherine asked. James handed her a tablet. "Security footage from last Tuesday. Watch this." Catherine pressed play. The video showed the corridor outside the head of security's office. At 11:47 p.m., a figure appeared, dressed in dark clothes, moving quickly. They entered the office using a key card. "Who is that?" Catherine whispered. "I don't know yet," James said. "The camera angle doesn't show their face. But watch what happens next." The figure left the office 3 minutes later. In their hand was a folder. The same folder that contained Catherine's private schedule. Catherine's blood ran cold. "Can you track where they went?" "I tried," James said, "but they knew where the cameras were. They avoided every single one. Except this." He swiped to another video. This one was from the parking area. The figure walked toward a car. Just before getting in, they turned slightly. The camera caught a partial profile. Enough to see a detail. A bracelet. Silver. With a small charm. Catherine's heart stopped. She knew that bracelet. She had seen it just that morning. On Margaret's wrist. Catherine didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation she'd ever had with Margaret. 7 years of trust. 7 years of shared secrets, private moments, and unspoken loyalty. And now, all of it felt like a lie. But she couldn't confront her. Not yet. James had been clear. If you accuse her without proof, she'll disappear. Or worse, whoever she's working with will act faster. So Catherine waited. And watched. The next morning, she called Margaret into her office. Margaret arrived with her usual warm smile, carrying a leather planner and a cup of tea for Catherine. "Good morning, Your Highness," Margaret said brightly. "I've confirmed the guest list for the gala. Everything is in order." Catherine took the tea. Her hand was steady, though her heart was racing. "Thank you, Margaret. You're always so thorough." Margaret sat down. "It's my job to make your life easier." Catherine studied her. The bracelet was there. Silver. The small charm glinted in the morning light. It was the same one from the video. "That's a lovely bracelet," Catherine said casually. "Is it new?" Margaret glanced at her wrist. "Oh, this?" "No, I've had it for years. A gift from my sister." Catherine nodded. She wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but instead, she smiled. "It's beautiful." Margaret left a few minutes later. As soon as the door closed, Catherine grabbed her phone and texted James. "It's her. I'm sure of it." James replied immediately, "Don't do anything. Let me handle it." Asterisk. But Catherine couldn't just sit and wait. She needed answers. That afternoon, while Margaret was attending a staff meeting, Catherine slipped into her assistant's office. It was small and tidy. A desk, a filing cabinet, a computer. Catherine's hands shook as she opened the desk drawers. Nothing unusual. Pens, papers, a box of tissues. She moved to the filing cabinet. Locked. She pulled a hairpin from her hair and worked the lock. It clicked open. Inside were folders, schedules, meeting notes, and then, at the back, a brown envelope. Catherine pulled it out and opened it. Inside were printed emails. Dozens of them. Messages between Margaret and someone identified only as M. Catherine's eyes scanned the words. Her stomach turned. The gala is the perfect opportunity. She'll be distracted. We move that night. Are you sure this will work? Trust me. By the end of the week, everything will be in place. Catherine's hands trembled. They were planning something for the gala. Something that involved her. She stuffed the envelope into her jacket and left the office. That evening, Catherine met James in a private corner of the palace library. She showed him the emails. His face darkened as he read. "This is worse than I thought," James said. "They're not just leaking information. They're planning something active." "What do we do?" Catherine asked. Her voice was tight. James looked up. "We set a trap. We let Margaret think everything is going according to plan. But on the night of the gala, we catch her in the act." "And if we're wrong?" Catherine asked. "If it's not her, then we've wasted time," James said. "But if we're right, we stop her before she hurts you." Catherine nodded. She had no choice. The gala was in 3 days. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to pretend she didn't know her most trusted assistant was plotting against her. Over the next 2 days, Catherine played her part. She smiled. She approved seating charts. She discussed flower arrangements. And all the while, Margaret was there, smiling, helpful, betraying her on the night before the gala. Catherine sat alone in her room. She thought about trust, about how fragile it was, how easily it could be broken. She had given Margaret everything. Her confidence, her secrets, her belief, and Margaret had sold it all. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It was James. "Everything is ready," he said. "Tomorrow night we'll have extra security in place. Undercover, Margaret won't know. When she makes her move, we'll be there." Catherine stood. What if she doesn't make a move? What if she knows we're on to her? James met her eyes. "Then we'll have our answer. Either way, this ends tomorrow." The night of the gala arrived cold and clear. The palace glowed with golden light. Guests in elegant gowns and tailored suits filled the grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. A string quartet played softly in the corner. To anyone watching, it was a perfect evening. But Catherine felt like she was walking through a nightmare. She stood near the entrance, greeting guests with practiced grace. Her dress was a deep blue silk that flowed as she moved. Her smile was polite, but her mind was elsewhere. Somewhere in this crowd, or perhaps just beyond it. Margaret was preparing to act. James was stationed near the west corridor, dressed in his formal security uniform. He blended in, but his eyes never stopped moving. 2 other undercover officers were positioned at key exits. They were ready. Catherine scanned the room. She saw Edward speaking with a diplomat. She saw members of the household staff carrying trays of champagne. And then she saw Margaret. Her assistant stood near the back of the room, clipboard in hand. Overseeing the event with calm efficiency, their eyes met for a brief moment. Margaret smiled. Catherine smiled back. It felt like poison. As the evening wore on, Catherine moved through the crowd. She made small talk. She thanked donors. She posed for photographs. But her nerves were fraying. Every passing minute felt like a countdown. At 9:30, Catherine excused herself. She needed air. She walked toward the private terrace that overlooked the palace gardens. It was quiet there. The sounds of the gala faded behind her. She stood by the stone railing and closed her eyes. The cold air bit at her skin. She tried to steady her breathing, Your Highness. Catherine spun around. Margaret stood in the doorway. Her expression was calm. To calm, you left so suddenly, Margaret said. I wanted to make sure you were all right. Catherine forced a smile. I'm fine. Just needed a moment. Margaret stepped onto the terrace. It's been a long night, as Catherine said. Her pulse quickened. But it's gone well, don't you think? Margaret nodded. She walked closer. You've worked so hard for this event. You deserve everything to go perfectly. There was something in her tone. A finality. Catherine's instincts screamed at her to move, to call for help, but she stayed still. Margaret, Catherine said carefully. Is there something you want to tell me? Margaret's smile faded. For the first time, her mask slipped. Her eyes were cold. You're smarter than I thought, Margaret said quietly. Catherine's breath caught. What are you talking about? Margaret reached into her jacket. Catherine's heart pounded. But instead of a weapon, Margaret pulled out a phone. She held it up. On the screen was a live video feed. It showed the ballroom, the guests, the security team, and in the corner, James. I know you've been watching me, Margaret said. I know you found the emails, and I know you set a trap. Catherine's stomach dropped. Why are you doing this? Margaret's expression hardened. Because you have everything. And people like me, we're invisible. We serve, we smile, we make your life easier. But no one sees us. No one values us. That's not true, Catherine said. I trusted you. Trust. Margaret laughed bitterly. You trusted me to do your work, to manage your life, to disappear when you didn't need me. But you never saw me as an equal. Catherine took a step back. So this is about revenge? This is about justice, Margaret said. And tonight, the world will see what happens when people like you take people like me for granted. She tapped her phone. In 5 minutes, a story is going to break. Every private conversation you've ever had, every secret you've shared, every vulnerable moment, it's all going to be released to the press. Catherine's blood ran cold. You can't do this. I already have, Margaret said. The files are uploaded. The timer is set, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Catherine's mind raced. She thought of the years of private moments, the conversations, the trust, all of it about to be exposed, twisted, used against her. Why tell me? Catherine asked. Why not just let it happen? Margaret's eyes gleamed. Because I wanted you to know. I wanted you to see the betrayal coming, the way I saw it every day. Before Catherine could respond, James appeared in the doorway. He moved fast. 2 officers were behind him. Step away from her, James ordered. Margaret didn't flinch. It's too late. The damage is done. James crossed the terrace in 3 strides. He grabbed Margaret's phone from her hand. She didn't resist. Instead, she smiled. A cold, satisfied smile. You think you've won? Margaret said. Check the phone. The timer is already running. James looked at the screen. His face went pale. She's right. The files are uploading to multiple servers. We have less than 4 minutes before they go public. Catherine's heart hammered in her chest. Can you stop it? James was already dialing a number on his own phone. I'm calling our tech team. They might be able to shut it down, but I need access codes. Margaret, give me the codes. Margaret laughed. Why would I do that? One of the officers stepped forward. You're under arrest for conspiracy. theft of confidential information, and threatening a member of the royal family. Margaret's smile didn't fade. Arrest me. It doesn't matter. In 3 minutes, every news outlet in the world will have those files. Catherine felt the walls closing in. Everything she had built, her privacy, her dignity, her family's trust, all of it was about to be destroyed. But then she remembered something. The emails, the ones she had found in Margaret's office. She pulled her phone from her hidden pocket and opened the photo she had taken. James, Catherine said urgently. The emails. Margaret was communicating with someone. Someone called M. If we can find them, maybe they can stop it. James looked at the screenshots. This email address, I recognize the format. It's an internal palace account. Catherine's stomach twisted. Someone else inside the palace is working with her? Not just someone, James said slowly. This is a senior-level account. Only 5 people have access to this encryption. Margaret's smile finally cracked. You'll never figure it out in time. But James was already moving. He handed Margaret over to the officers and pulled Catherine back inside. They ran through the palace corridors, away from the gala. Catherine's heels clicked on the marble floors. Her dress dragged behind her. They reached the palace security office. James threw open the door. Inside, 3 technicians were working frantically on computers. We're trying to trace the upload, one of them said, but it's bouncing through proxy servers. We need more time. We don't have time, James said. He pulled up the email account on the main screen. This account belongs to someone in the inner circle. Who has access? The technician typed rapidly. A list appeared on the screen. 5 names. Edward, the senior advisor Thomas, the head of communications Victoria, the palace secretary Richard, the deputy head of security, and one more. A name that made Catherine's blood freeze, William. Her personal bodyguard. The man who had been by her side for 10 years? Catherine whispered, not William. James looked at her. Where is he right now? Catherine's mind raced. He's supposed to be at the gala, overseeing the perimeter. James grabbed his radio. All units locate William immediately. Do not approach. Just locate. Static crackled. Then a voice responded, William is not at his post. Repeat, William is not at his post. James cursed under his breath. He's running, or he's finishing the job, Catherine said. James turned to the technicians. Can you lock down the upload from this end? We need admin access, one of them said. And the only person with that level of access is whoever set up the upload. Catherine looked at the timer on the screen. 1 minute and 40 seconds, then we find William, she said. James nodded. He grabbed his weapon, and they left the security office at a run. Catherine followed, her mind spinning. William. She had trusted him with her life, literally. He had been there on every trip. Every public appearance, every private moment they reached the staff quarters in the East Wing. James kicked open William's door. The room was empty. But on the desk, a laptop sat open. The screen glowed in the darkness. James ran to it. This is it. This is the upload source. Catherine looked over his shoulder. The screen showed a progress bar. 97% complete. Can you stop it? Catherine asked. James's fingers flew over the keyboard. I need a password. The system is locked. Catherine thought fast. Try his badge number. 7394. Invalid password. Try his daughter's name. Emma. Invalid password. 50 seconds left. Catherine closed her eyes. She thought about William. What mattered to him? What would he use as a password? And then it hit her. Try loyal, she said. Capital L. James typed. The screen blinked. Access granted. He immediately opened the command terminal and started typing code. Catherine watched the progress bar. 99%. James... I've got it, he said. His voice was tight. I'm shutting it down. The screen flickered. The progress bar stopped. And then, slowly, it began to reverse. The upload was canceling. The files were being pulled back. Catherine let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The screen went black. Then a message appeared. Upload terminated. James leaned back. We did it. Catherine sank into a chair. Her hands were shaking. It's over? Not yet, James said. We still need to find William? They found William 30 minutes later in the palace chapel. He was sitting in the front pew, his head in his hands. He didn't run when James and the officers entered. He didn't even look up. It's over, William, James said quietly. William finally raised his head. His face was drawn, tired, I know. Catherine stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her heart was breaking. Why? William looked at her. For a moment, the man she had trusted was there, and then his expression hardened. Do you know what it's like? He asked. To spend every day protecting someone who doesn't even see you. To sacrifice everything, your time, your family, your life, for someone who takes it all for granted. I never took you for granted, Catherine said. You did, William said bitterly. You all do. You say thank you. You smile. But you don't see us. We're just part of the machinery that keeps your perfect life running, so you tried to destroy me. Catherine's voice cracked. Tried to make you feel what it's like, William said. To have everything you value stripped away. To be exposed. To be vulnerable. By working with Margaret. William nodded. She approached me a year ago. She had been watching you. Studying you. She knew every crack in your armor. And she offered me a way out. A way to finally be more than just your shadow. What did she promise you? James asked. Money, William said. A new life. Freedom. He laughed bitterly. But mostly she promised me that you would finally see me. Really see me. Even if it was only as the person who brought you down. Catherine felt sick. You've been with me for 10 years, William. I trusted you with my life. I saved your life more times than you know, William said. But it was never enough. You still looked through me. The chapel was silent. Outside, the gala continued. Music drifted through the stone walls. But in here, everything had changed. James stepped forward. William, you're under arrest. William didn't resist. He stood slowly and held out his wrists. I know. As the officers led him away, he looked back at Catherine one last time. I'm sorry, he said. Not for what I did, but for what you made me become. Catherine watched him go. She didn't have words. James stood beside her. Are you all right? Catherine shook her head. No, but I will be. The next morning, the palace released a carefully worded statement. A security breach had been detected and resolved. 2 staff members had been arrested. No sensitive information had been released. The investigation was ongoing. The press speculated. The public wondered. But the full story remained private. Catherine sat in her office, looking out at the palace grounds. The sun was rising. The world was waking up. Everything looked the same as it had the day before, but it wasn't. She thought about trust, about the people we let into our lives, about the invisible labor of those who serve in the shadows. She had always believed she treated her staff with respect, but William's words haunted her. You don't see us. Margaret and William were gone. But the damage they had tried to inflict remained, not in leaked files or public scandal, but in the wound they had opened, the reminder that betrayal often comes from those closest to us. Catherine picked up her phone. She called James. I want to meet with every member of the staff, she said. Not as their employer, but as someone who wants to listen. Really listen. James was quiet for a moment. That's a good idea. And James? Catherine added. Thank you. For seeing the warning signs. For protecting me. It's my job, James said. No, Catherine said. It's more than that. And I see you. I want you to know that. After she hung up, Catherine stood and walked to the window. The palace would continue. The routines would resume. But something had shifted. She had learned that trust is fragile. That silence can fester into resentment. That the people we overlook often hold more power than we realize. she would do better. She had to, because the next betrayal might not be stopped in time. But for now, the palace was safe. The secrets were protected, and Catherine was still standing, wounded but wiser.